Hi, this is Hotor from DevilsDigest.com. I'm over here at Pac-12 Media Day with staff writer Val Famsden here in Hollywood, California, and in sharp contrast to the sweltering temperatures that have welcomed us today, even though it's somewhat a relief from 116 back back in the valley. It is hot, yes. The big news concerning Arizona State today was obviously the Pac-12 media picking the Sun Devils in the preseason poll in the sixth and last place in the South Division. I thought, in contrast to these hot temperatures, that Herm Edwards, Manny Wilkins, Nikhil Harry, the Sun Devils representatives over here, were cool, calm, and collected when they discussed the disrespect, the low expectations that have been placed on the team. You talked both to Manny and Nikhil about that earlier today. What kind of vibe did you get from them? I mean, is this motivation, or is it something that's really as trivial as it can be in their mind?
I tried to get Manny Wilkins to admit that even if he doesn't take something like this to heart, he at least files it away, a little check mark next to it, and says, like, okay, we'll see, you know? And I really feel like Herm Edwards maybe is rubbing off on these guys, that they've said, you know what, this is something that we expected. This is what the media does. They didn't know last year, so it really has no effect on us. I tried to get Manny Wilkins to admit that the media did him a favor in picking ASU 6. Then he said, you know, it ultimately doesn't matter. You end up where you end up, which is crazy because I feel like most teams want to come in here and feel disrespected and have that little bit of extra underdog mentality. And this team is just, at least the guys representing ASU here today were incredibly laid back about it and continuously cited last year as evidence that ultimately it doesn't matter. You end up where you end up.
Yeah, the only time I saw Herm Edwards come close to losing his cool is that when there was a reporter, and maybe you've seen it by now in the transcript or the video that we uploaded, that a reporter asked him, what kind of player are you trying to recruit to Arizona State? Herm Edwards started to answer the question, and the reporter, for some reason, says, don't worry, nobody's listening. And that set off Herm Edwards a little bit, and maybe the disrespect that he didn't care about the sixth place finish did manifest itself with that one comment over there. But that aside, Herm Edwards had a couple interesting tidbits. First of all, you said that the team is going to go back to Canton, Arizona just for a day trip. Obviously, the field is not installed there yet, but he wants the young players to experience that. So for those people that like the old school aspect of Herm Edwards, I think that was something encouraging to see right there. I think another thing that Herm Edwards said that was really interesting but not unexpected. He said that this is going to be an offensive-driven team. And basically, when you look at the numbers, 8 starters returning on offense, only 4 on defense. Obviously, a lot of continuity in terms of the coaching staff on offense compared to defense. Brand new staff, brand new scheme. That's exactly what would you expect the identity of the Sun Devils to be. So in that vein, Ralph, when you talk to Manny and Nikhil earlier today, do they feel any pressure, any expectation because of what Herm Edwards said?
No, not really. The thing that I had a question for them about, that I asked Manny Wilkins a question of, you know, you've had big plays come from the tight end position, but not really consistency. And he said, you know, I feel like that unit is the unit that's putting in the most work, and I'm going to get them the ball when I have a chance to get them the ball. I asked, you know, about then just the number of sheer carries and plays that were made by Kalen Ballage and Demario Richard that they're going to have to replace with Eno Benjamin and whoever else, you know, the cast of characters that comes through. And he made sure to mention that, like, Traylon Smith is very good, and some of the things you saw from him in practice are more than just a flash in the pan. And so, you know, the receivers, you know, when anytime you compliment the receivers, they'd be like, yeah, you better. You know, anytime you talk about the fact that Manny Wilkins doesn't necessarily get the attention that maybe his statistics would allow for in comparison to some of the other quarterbacks in the Pac-12 and around the country, especially with what he was able to do with his deep ball, you know, that was something that Manny Wilkins just laughed about. I said, are you angry for Manny Wilkins that he's not getting that attention? And he said, I can't be angry for him if he's not angry for him. And so the attitude is, it's not blasé, it's just relaxed. It's definitely a different vibe than any ASU team I've ever been around, at least as far as the people that are here representing them at Pac-12 Media Days.
And before we go over to some of the tidbits that you captured from the other Pac-12 players and coaches in this event today, one thing I did want to mention is that when Herm Edwards talked about recruiting, and obviously you can't talk about specifics, but you look at the numbers, 11 commits to date, the highest ever in Arizona State's recruiting class history, 8 in the month of June, which is another record. Somebody asked him if he thought his NFL pedigree is something that does help him with the recruits, and he said, "Look, absolutely. I have 30 years of both playing and coaching in the NFL. So when I speak, players are going to listen." And I know some folks have been skeptical about how Arizona State's going to recruit under Herm Edwards. I really thought that having a class ranked number 36 with a brand new coaching staff, dealing with an early signing period, which I thought was going to affect a team in transition like Arizona State much more than other teams with continuity, that really never happened. So that was interesting to see that maybe the media, at least in that sense, is maybe coming around a little, and really that Herm Edwards can be a good recruiter. And obviously what he does on Saturdays from here on out maybe prevent another sixth-place prediction this time next year. But talk about the other Pac-12 coaches and players. If you could pick maybe one or two tidbits that really stood out in terms of just memorable quotes or just interesting points that coach or player brought up.
I think some of the things that stood out to me are, number one, Chip Kelly is home. I have not seen him look this comfortable in a football setting in front of the media since he was at Oregon, and maybe not even then. He looked ready to go, and so that'll be the interesting thing to me because you and I talked about it. Is Chip Kelly going to be watering dead plants? Because they've got some absolute studs that Jim Mora wasn't really able to get anything out of, and so what UCLA is able to do is really going to determine whether or not any of these predictions are. Is UCLA really down, and is it a rebuilding process for them, or is he going to be able to come in and kickstart it right away? And he just came in and had kind of a commanding presence, and that was something that was really interesting to me. As far as just sticking with the Pac-12 South, you forget about the talent that Utah has. That Helton, their or Hansen, their linebacker. See that? There you go. Like, I'm not even getting his name right, but the linebacker prospect that they brought out as a sophomore had like Manti Te'o Heisman level linebacker numbers and was banged up last year. But as a senior representative, you realize the best playmaker here might end up being a linebacker for Utah, and so that was very interesting to me. University of Arizona swagger. I think they've adopted. If Khalil Tate didn't already bring that completely on his own, they've adopted the mindset that comes from their head coach, and so there was a nice yin and yang there with Arizona State University, who is sort of passive, whatever will be, and University of Arizona coming in here with a strut in their step, and I definitely got a kick out of that. The media darling obviously being in their backyard is USC. All of the questions were about the quarterback, and it's really all any of us want to know. Should Arizona State and the rest of the Pac-12 South be afraid of JT Daniels, or should JT Daniels be afraid of the Pac-12 South? And I think that's probably the biggest question. Not a lot of energy coming from the Colorado contingent. But yeah, I think the Pac-12 South is definitely wide open, and I think that what I got from this is that nobody in the Pac-12 South really feels comfortable with where they were picked or with anybody's predictions. Everyone's really just waiting to see what they have on the field, what the young guys are that are going to contribute might be, and I would say that your prediction of Utah being second. They might be the only sure thing to me to have a solid season, just because there's so many question marks surrounding JT Daniels at the quarterback position and Arizona State at the defensive back position, and whether the coaching staff will mesh. And so just tons of question marks, but those are the things that stood out to me.
Well, it's been a long and productive day over here in Hollywood. And before Ralph and I hit some of the more famous clubs and hot spots over here, just kidding, we're going to sign off. But please make sure you check our front page at DevilsDigest.com, our message board, the Devil's Huddle, and the Twitter page at Devil's Digest. Lots of content already up there. More to come this evening, more to come tomorrow. Make sure you follow us, not only for the Pac-12 Media Day coverage, but also for fall camp. Starting on August 3rd, Friday next week. So for Ralph Amundsen, this is Todd Rubino reporting for DevilsDigest.com from Hollywood, California.